Okay, good morning, and that's what friends are for. President Doug says, hey, you go and introduce Sean. And there is a full-on resume, like a couple of pages, and he says, I haven't got my specs reading glasses. So that's the reason I've been asked to introduce Sean.
The Captain Show.
Yes. So, Dr. Sean Kabongo, Associate Professor at University of South Florida in their Sarasota campus, in College of Business, a highly popular teacher with students, and that's not very easy, because I am one of those professors who never get voted as anywhere near being popular, and Sean Kabongo gets voted multiple times. Has done a phenomenal amount of work through the World Bank at Democratic Republic of Congo, is a multifaceted person with interest in many different dimensions of life, fully supported by his wife Rosa and daughter Natalie, if I'm pronouncing correctly.
That's correct, yeah.
And Sean and I continue to do joint research, especially in the area of big data and sustainability. So that is like not even a tip of the iceberg. It's like just a small tip of what this wonderful person is. And I'm very proud that one day I managed to invite him to come and give a talk on his World Bank project. And then I said, why don't you become a Rotarian? Nice. So here is our Rotarian friend, Dr. Sean Kabongo.
Good morning, Sunrise.
Morning.
Morning. That's not what.
I'm really humbled this morning to stand before you to share a little bit about my background, my family, my work, and my vision for the Rotary. I apologize in advance if I give too many details. I hope I will not be fined. I also apologize if I don't give, I leave some details aside. And I think that this will open up an opportunity for some of you to sit down and go over some of the details I'm about to say in my presentation this morning. I was born and raised in the Democratic Republic of Congo. You can see on the map, it shows the location of the country inside Africa. We share, in the east of the country, we share border with Tanzania, where Stan has his project. And I grew up in the city of Kinshasa. My parents moved there when we were very little, and that's where I went to school and grew up. When I was growing up, it was a city of approximately 3 million people, but today it has almost tripled the population, and you can imagine the amount of problems in terms of urbanization, getting everybody to school, and so on. And even though I left my country almost 30 years ago, I was able to go back with some of the projects that I'm involved with the World Bank. I come from a very large family of 8. I have 3 brothers and 4 sisters. And my parents, you can see them on this picture. My dad passed away 3 years ago at the age of 78. They really taught us values in terms of, helping others all the time, hard work, taking responsibility for your own actions, and the love for education. My dad was an educator by profession. He went to a normal school. He worked as a teacher for many, many years, and then he went on the administration of the schools. My mom stayed home, but later on she opened a business, and she managed to become one of the a licensed retailer for one of the largest bakery in the country. So we grew up in this environment, watching him manage her business. And as a young boy, I would go up and help her. And that's where my love to understand what entrepreneurship came from. My parents were very engaged in the church. So my family has been always very traditional Roman Catholic family. And both my parents were engaged in the church. They were in many, many organizations of the church. My house was where people would come to gather. Because my parents were in many organizations, so most of the gatherings and meetings will happen in my house. People will come, ladies, men, young adults. And because my parents were really, really engaged, so the life in our family was a little bit of a small monastery where every morning, you say prayers all the time. And my dad was really loved the Gregorian songs. So he would teach us how to sing Gregorian. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the Gregorian songs, but that's where we grew up in that kind of environment, surrounded by going to church all the time. As a young boy, young adult, I was also involved in so many youth Catholic organizations, attending, organized a lot of events, training others to become leaders and follow the teachings of the church. I went to Catholic schools, and I'm proud to say that I'm one of the products of the Jesuit education. If you remember, the Jesuit is a religious order. Their mission is to train, to educate people not only in terms of knowledge, science, but also with human values. In that picture, you can see the school I went to, and at that time, that's where I experienced the first international community, because the group of Jesuits who were responsible for our education, they came from Belgium and Spain. So we were seeing these men leaving their countries to come and live, in our neighborhood to take care of our education. And that to me was really impactful. And I said at one time, I would like to be like them. I'd like to go out and also do something for the youth in the world. So after the school I went to, the high school, is named Bonsomi, which is in Lingala, the language we speak in Kinshasa. Well, by the way, in my country, there are approximately 250 different languages.
Oh, how wonderful. Wow.
But through the work of anthropologists, sociologists, and linguistics, they were able to group these 250 languages in only 4 African languages spoken in the country. Swahili, which we share with Tanzania as well. Lingala, which we speak in the city capital. Chiluba, my parents' mother tongue, and Congo. Congo, which came from Congo. So bonsomi means freedom, independence. And the idea is that education will set you free, will give you the independence of going out and do whatever you want with your life. My first degree was in philosophy, and I've really enjoyed reading works of one of the biggest philosophers in the world. And my interest was in existentialism, which places the human being at the center of everything as an individual, independent in terms of his own actions, feelings. And through the studying of philosophy with this existentialism movement, I began to ask some of the fundamental questions about why so much suffering in the world? Why do we have so many kids, like in my country, without schooling? Why people die from hunger? And that kind of teaching deepened my understanding of what's going on in the world. So I decided to join a Catholic organization that's really, the mission is to help people in the world. And my first assignment was in Haiti. I spent 3 years in Haiti doing some humanitarian work through education. I learned how to speak Haitian Creole. I was really impressed when I landed in Port-au-Prince to see it reminded me of the history of these people who, as you know, came from Africa and ended up being in Haiti. I spent 3 years in Haiti doing, as I said, humanitarian work as part of my internship. And then after that, the same organization I joined, part of the training was to pursue more studies in Mexico. So after 3 years in Haiti, I was sent to Mexico. And in Mexico, something really big happened. Obviously, I went to learn how to speak Spanish in a Mexican family, about the culture. But there, I was supposed to further my education with the study of theology. And I came across a movement called liberation theology. And this is a movement within the Catholic Church, very, very popular in the 60s, 70s, that originated from Latin America. In the picture there, you see that's Father Ernesto Gutierrez, a Peruvian priest who is considered the founder of the liberation theology. And what the liberation theology is, it's simply to interpret the scriptures from the perspective of the poor and take actions. When we hear some of the things that really impacted me were when we say, I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was hungry, you took care of me. I was in prison, you came to visit me. So these things all the time are connected with the teachings of the liberation theology, which is simply to say, as men of faith, you need to do something to liberate the oppressed people. And one of the ways that you need to find solutions is to be part of the solution, to do something about it. The liberation theology was a movement that was against the established, I would say established Catholic Church. And the school I attended, where we were taught this line of theology, was at some point investigated by the Vatican because they thought it was wrong teachings, and ultimately the school was closed. So that was to me a very, very big disappointment, and it led me to a different kind of thinking, and I said to myself, well, maybe it's time to take care of myself now and settle down and form a family and see what happens. So in Mexico, I met my wife Rosa in Mexico City, and we got married there, and we started family. And I have our daughter Natalie. She attends UF. She'll be graduating in December, and she wants to go to law school to become a lawyer, based on what she says, to help people in the world. So in Mexico, we decided to immigrate to Canada, and went through all the paperwork legally. And in Mexico, I decided to go for further education, and I went to another Jesuit university called Iberoamericana University, and got my MBA in business administration. So when we moved to Canada, we decided to settle down in the province of Quebec, where French is spoken as the main language. And there I, again, went to get more education, get a PhD in management with a specialization in environmental sustainability. And that's why my good friend Bhuvan and I are now working on a project trying to see what happens between big data and sustainability. So I decided that part of the way that I can answer the questions about, the fundamental questions about what happens in the world would be, I found academia to be my place through education. And this goes back to my own education. I said that's where I can do something, contribute to the world. So through academia, I can teach. I love teaching. I can do some research, but also service the community. When I was writing my dissertation, we call it ABD, so all but dissertation. I started sending out letters to try to, find some, a place to teach, a place to work. Even though we were Canadians, so we have dual citizenship, so Canadian and American. I had to renounce my Congolese citizenship for legal reasons. Every time I go back to my country, I need to apply for a visa. So, which is really yeah. But so I applied to many places in Canada, no chance, and some schools here in the U.S. were interested in my application. So we came here. I taught for 2 years at Virginia State, and then I went to Pennsylvania, Middleville University in Lancaster County for 4 years before coming here to join USF back in 2010. And the picture you see there, so last year, after living for about 10 years on the green card, we were finally, we became American last year. So at USF, what I do, so teaching, research, and service. So it's really what my colleagues and I, my colleague here, Buva, knows it very well. We do it there to teach, and our focus is on student success. Every time a student graduates, when I heard club members this morning say, well, my daughter is graduating, my son is graduating, it gives us as professors the joy to see that we did something, right? And we are sending out these kids to go out and help the world by being a medical doctor, being a, whatever they choose to be, to make an impact in the world. That gives us satisfaction as professors. So, my friend Buvan, I was seeing him all the time on Friday morning, coming to work early. Friday is the, we don't see a lot of people on campus on Friday.
Very fun now.
So I was seeing him on Friday, I said, why are you here on Friday morning? What are you doing? And he goes, well, I'm a member of a club, Rotary Club here in Soho. Well, what is that? And he said, well, you should come and see, okay? Sometime. So after many times of talking, so he invited me to come and speak to you. So many of you will remember when I came here to speak about my project in the Congo. And I remember very well the discussion, the question that Didi, that day she told me about her dad who worked in Kinshasa. And she was there as a baby. To me, that was a really nice connection. And when I came here, I found a group of people, you guys, right, doing the same thing I have been dreaming of doing. And it's also a way to make new friends. And I say, well, I think I finally, found a place I can go and do something and contribute. And that's why I decided to join this group of people who are doing good in the world. This goes back, so I found my, so to speak, vocation from my youth to answer some of the questions. And you, as a group of people, you try to do that, right? When we say, I needed clothes and you clothed me, we have true of joy doing that. When we say, I was hungry and you took care of me, we have Tom doing that. So to me, it's a pleasure. I found satisfaction being here, being part of this group, doing good in the world.
Woo! Come on!
Thank you. So a couple of years ago, my colleague and I, my colleague who teaches criminology, we were talking. She's very young, but very, very smart, very, very intelligent. She was telling me about her dissertation. She wrote a dissertation. She interviewed inmates, and inmates were telling her how it was difficult for them to find a job after release. And after many, talks, we decided to do research, try to understand the impact of entrepreneurship on recidivism. So we're trying to find data, to collect data. We couldn't find any data. And then we were invited to Hardy Correctional Institution to go and see if they have any data. I went to speak with the principal there, and he goes, we don't have any data for you. But if you guys want to start a program, you can collect your own data. I said, okay, that sounds like interesting. So it took us about a year to put together a program, and in September of 2016, we started this prison entrepreneurship program at Hardy Correctional Institution. What we do, we teach entrepreneurship to inmates who are about to be released. And this provides some hope for them. We prepare them to make a transition, a transformation from a criminal mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset, so that when we have a 10-week program, so we can see the change in this inmate. So we do this again, part of our research, but also part of our service to the community. So I'm just gonna say this, that I'm really proud to be part of the Rotary, to be part of this group, because we are really trying to answer some of the fundamental questions of our world. Thank you. Thank you. Questions? Yes.
You talked about being taught how to help others.
Yes.
I have found in Tanzania, there's a strong feeling of helping as long as it doesn't get into getting into someone's pocket. There is no feeling of philanthropy in terms of, what about in the Congo?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same mindset. And I think part of it is that a lot of people, at least from my perspective, a lot of people want to help, but they don't have the means to do so.
Yeah, I find in Tanzania it transcends, it's just not in the mindset to share, to help, but not to share.
Yes, and that is why some of us who were, I would say, fortunate enough to get to understand, like I said, through when we see these people coming from other countries to help, like what you do in Tanzania, that's a really good example to show people, how to help.
Yeah. Although some people look at us like we're idiots.
Yes, that is.
No, I mean, you're doing that. What's wrong with you?
It's okay, Stan.
Okay.
What if we are scared?
Thanks, Teresa. Do I hear an amen?
All right, we're gonna let you do one last thing here. You know the drill. We're pulling for $12 and
$1.90.